Okay, right. So today we will understand about, okay, code compilation and packaging. Okay, so what is this whole process of compiling the code and packaging the code? Let us understand it at a very what do you call high level perspective of what this code compiling is all about, and then we will basically understand what is packaging, and then we will get into some language based examples, right? Okay, all right, fine. Or build and package the code. Okay, right. The first thing is our developers tend to write the code, and that code, when it is basically executed, is what your customers might use it via application format. Okay, so here we have to understand two different perspectives, right? So let me go over here, and yeah, okay. So we have developers, okay, and these developers tend to write, what they do is they write code, okay, and then we have a typical user, okay, 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 and this user is interested in using application. Consider Chrome, right? Some developers in Google write some code for the Chrome browser to work, but you and me are not worried about how the code is written. So we want to use the Chrome so that we can browse some applications. That is basic stuff. Here, there is a huge gap. Okay. So developer writing code to the customer using your application. And this is exactly what we are going to speak. Okay. So what I was trying to tell is developers write the code and your users use the application. And in between this, for this code that is written by the developer to the user using your application, okay, there are many things that happen over here. So what are those things and what exactly happens over here? This is basically what our agenda of today is. Okay, so far we are clear, right? So developers are going to write the code and your customers are going to use your application. Yeah, okay. Now in between this, what would happen? Okay, this depends on what is the kind of application which you are using. All right, so this is the basic developer writing the code and then customer using your application. So let me take this image. Right, let me go to DevOps Essentials, images. Right, okay. So for any application, developers write code and customers use application. Okay, what happens in between, okay, is different for different kinds of applications. Okay, different application types. What do I mean by that is, if you are using an application on a laptop, right, the way it behaves is different than the way you write it for a website. Okay, so let me basically speak about it. Preview dot slash images slash DevOps 12.png. I'm sure that it is 12. Yeah, good. Okay, so first we need to understand what are different application types. What are those different application types which I'm trying to speak about? Okay, right, fine. So generally your applications are of two types if I basically categorize into it. Okay, they are of thick client or desktop applications. Thin client or browser based applications. So, or browser is not, might not be right term, web based application. All right. And then we have a third category, mobile apps, which also fall under the category of thick client, but let me deal it separately. Do you all agree with me that these are the three popular types? One is thick client application. Thick client application is where you need to install it on your system. So something like Google Chrome, something like Microsoft Word. All right. So let me give some examples over here. Okay. Examples. Okay. Chrome browser, Microsoft Word, VLC media player. You can go on and on. Okay. Thin client applications, right? Or web-based applications. Here, examples are, let me not use Facebook. Uh, let me use something like, okay, Swiggy is also not good. Okay, let me use Facebook will create confusions. What should I use? Okay. Okay, let me put it in this way. Because for everything we are okay, it's okay. Let me go with facebook.com. Okay, amazon.com, etc. So the third one is mobile application, and I'm quite sure that you can tell me more. You can tell more example than what I am writing it over here. WhatsApp, you have TikTok, you have. Let me not use rubbish application. Let me use something which is useful. Uh, Let me use something like money control. Uh, Let me use your internet banking application. You can go on and on. Okay, so these are the three different kinds of applications which we have. Applications which basically expect you to install software on your system, applications which don't expect you to install any software on your system. So let us assume that if this developer is writing code for Google Chrome, then what he has to do, he has to give you something so that you can install on your system. Yes or no? Do you all agree with me on that? So if your application is supposed to be installed like VLC media player, this developer, after writing the code, there needs to be something that needs to be downloaded on your system, and you have to double click it or install it, whatever you call it, right? So here, let me write that. Okay, I'll be writing a high level stuff. Create a package. Okay, this is what developer will end up doing. Okay, and where is down? And user downloads the package or installer, whatever you call it, and installs the application. Do you all agree with me on this? This is how you have installed Google Chrome, right? Okay. Is VM a thin client or a thick client? Is VM an application, Harish? Is VM an application? Is it? VM is an application, is it? First, try to correct it over there. VM is not an application. Yeah. So here I'm speaking about applications, not servers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. So this is generally what we do for desktop applications or thick client. So if it is, even if it is client server, you need to install some kind of a software, right? Okay, good. This is what we do for thick client applications, right? All right. Now web-based applications. If the same story is for web-based applications, okay. Servers are updated with new changes. Okay. Or servers are updated with new packages. Okay. User will access the application using the same URL. Yes or no? Do you all agree with me on this? Whenever something is changed in facebook.com site, are you doing anything? No. We basically go to the same thing. We see the new UI. We see new features. But okay, on my desktop, am I changing anything? Literally nothing. I'm basically using the same URL to log in into my application. So this is the second category of applications. Right. And then the third category, mobile application. Okay. Updates are pushed to App Store or Google Play. The user updates the application. On your mobile, you will be getting a lot of packages. And then, okay, user using the application that is already present over here. This is for your mobile apps. Do you all agree with me on this so far? So, depending on what is my application type, what I do in between changes. Yes or no? Right? If it is mobile app, I need to push the update somehow to Google Play Store or Apple's App Store. Right? If it is a web application, user need not do anything, but you there needs to be something that has to be done on the server front. Now, if it is a desktop application, you have to send your updates to the desktop or updates to the user so that he downloads it and he deals with it. Do you all agree with me on this, or do you have any other doubts on this? Is the same following package to be followed to install? Let it be anything. The installing the package on how you install might be different, but you have to download the package, right? In Linux, you might not literally see downloading the package. You might be executing some commands, but what those commands do, they do the same thing, right? Yeah. So you have to execute some commands rather than manually downloading and installing it, because I'm giving you the UI perspective. Okay, right. So are we clear with these three stuffs? Web-based applications, mobile-based applications, and desktop-based applications, right? These three have altogether a different way of dealing with the stuff. Okay. Now, the way we build and package the code also changes depending on what is your application type. Depends on what is your application type. Okay, right. So let me get started with thin client. This is majorly used. Thin client application build or packaging. How does it work? Okay, right. So developer writes the code. Web application. Okay. After the developer writes the code, okay, then code is compiled. After the code compilation finishes, okay. So compiled code. What do I mean by compiling the code over here? Okay. So generally, when we write the code, when your developer writes the code, they write the code in some language like Java, .NET, C, or whatever language it is. But these languages are directly not understandable on your operating system. So basically, what they do is they convert your language into some format which your operating system can understand. Which your operating system can understand. Okay, there are two things over here. There is a compiler based and there is an interpreter based. I'm not getting into all of that, so just take it as a easier note, saying that there is some process called as compilation happens. We have compiled code right now, but that cannot help us. Okay, from that compiled code, what we do is we create a package suitable for the server deployment. Am I clear on this? We create, that is fine, because they are web applications, right? Right, the environment is different. Yeah. So mobile application is also a thick client application, but generally I'm just categorizing it differently. So Nagaraju, for me, thin client, thick client, and mobile app both are same. Okay, with some minor differences. That's the reason why I've tried to put all of them together. Yeah, right. Okay, so we create a package suitable for our server. Okay, because remember, we have spoken about servers like Apache server, Nginx server, and IAS server, Tomcat server. They might be a web server or an app server, right? Because every server which you're having might have a different way of uh, deploying the applications in it, right? So then what we do is, okay, use this package and copy into the server. Okay, that copying is something which I'm calling it as deploy on the server. Okay, am I clear on this? So we compile the code, After we compile the code, we create a package which is suitable for server deployment, We use this package and we deploy this onto the server. This is what we do in web applications. If I want to go one level deeper, okay, am I clear on this? And how this packaging format is different for different technologies, right? So it might change. We will get into some of the examples over here. But am I clear so far? Developer writes the code, we compile the code, and from that code we have to create a package which will suit your server. Okay. So you have to understand these workflows very well. All right. Okay. Okay. Code is compiled, and then a package suitable to the app or web server is created. Then this package is deployed on the app or web server. Okay. So how to do this? We will deal with this. But what we do it doesn't change. Tomorrow, whenever you are dealing with Java applications to deploy it onto the app server, the story is same. .NET applications to deploy it onto the IIS server, story is same, right? Python applications to deploy it onto some Django web server, Django app server, story is same. So first you have to convert this code into some format or some package which your application server or web server understands, and then you need to basically deploy it. Okay. When I say deploy is copying the code and if required configuring the server. Fine. Do you agree with me on this now? So whenever we are dealing with web application, then basically we have to create a package which is suitable for the app server or web server and then do the deployment. How each web server might have its own packaging format. So for example, right, Tomcat server might take WAR files, right? So your IAS server might take some DLLs. So, right? So it is up to the what do you call um, it is up to the web server or app server which your company is basically using, depends on what is the package which you need to create. The way we create a package for Tomcat might be different from the way we create the package for IAS server. Okay, their formats might be different, but what we are trying to achieve might not be different. Okay, so generally here the basic principle is your packaging type generally depends on what language your application is being developed in. So for example, the way I do it in Java, okay, what the formats which I get in Java might or might not be different from the other languages. Okay, but this process, it is same. Okay, so what are the steps which you are following to achieve this? That doesn't change. Am I clear on this? All right. Okay, now let me give you, okay, we are not going to do this, but I'm going to give you a Java example. Okay, so once, okay, get the code. Okay, once you have the code, compile the code. Okay, I'm not saying Java has many tools for doing this. Okay, compile the code. For this we'll be using a command. Don't worry about this command. My intention is not to make you learn this commands at this moment. MVN compile, this will compile the code, and then package the code. Here we will get something called as MVN package. Okay. Now copy the war file. Okay. The format which we get is war. I'm just using web archive. Okay. So don't worry about these terms. Just see whether it is in sync with what we have drawn or not. Now copy the war file to the Tomcat directory / web apps folder. That's it. This is how you deploy in Java, a Java application using Tomcat. Now what is that we have done? Developer has written the Java code. We have compiled the Java code. For compiling the Java code, here he has used a command called as mvn compile, and then create a suitable package. For the suitable package, he has done mvn package, and then deploy this package. To deploy this package, his job was to copy the war file which he got out of this package into Tomcat directory / web apps. Okay, am I clear on this? So I think we are basically getting little bit of relation between this. Okay, so developer, after writing the code gets compiled, we create a package, we copy that package into the server, user uses the application using URL. The problem is resolved. Am I clear on this, or do we have any confusions now? Don't worry about the code. I am not interested in the code, also in the commands also. What I am trying to do, I do compile, I do package, I do deployment, and the way I do deployment changes from server to server. Changes from server to server. Tomorrow, if your company is using a different app server, then the place where you might copy the war file might be different, even if it is Java. Okay, so Java Maven example into another app server might, the last step might vary. Now .NET example into Tomcat. Get the code, not into Tomcat, into IIS server. Compile the code. Okay, here right, ms build. Okay, okay, path to codes. Don't worry about what I'm writing over here. This we need to understand. This changes from language to language. All right. Package the code. Okay. So 1 minute. ms build. Oh gosh. Okay. Now take this package and copy into C drive inet pub. Okay, and configure the IIS server. Okay, so I've written two different technologies. Okay, but you just tell me how different they are in terms of step. Okay, so don't worry about the tools. I'm not getting into tools. Just I have shown you two examples, one about Java technology, the other one about .NET technology, on how to get this stuff done. Okay, so yes, steps wise they are same, right? They might have a different way of building, they might have a different way of packaging, they might use a different tool for building, they might use a different tool for packaging. That's all fine, but on a generic note, is it matching to what we have written over here or not? That's exactly what we are going to work on. Am I clear on this now? Yes. Okay. So now, if you have to write about a thin client example, you compile the code. After you compile the code, then you try to build a package. Same. Now that package has to be downloaded by the user and he has to install it. Okay. So if it is a mobile application, you compile the code, you package the code, and that package, whatever you have written, you will upload it to the Google App Drive or Apple's iPhone or Apple's App Store. Are we clear on this? This is what I'm trying to derive. I'm not interested in tools over here. Okay, because tomorrow you might have better tools. Tomorrow you might use a different tool. Your organization might have built their own compile tool or a build tool. Okay, but these steps are not going to change. Am I clear on this? Do you all agree with me that there is some correlation now? Yes, good, good, right, fine. So right, exercise. Okay, find the steps to deploy the Java application into there is one application server called as JBoss. This is your exercise one for today. Try it out. I'm not basically asking you for exercises. This is your first exercise for today. The only thing which you have to do is you have to Google. Okay. Exercise 2. Find the steps to deploy the Python application into Apache web server. Will you do these two things for me? You have to just Google, man. There is nothing you need. I'm just the only thing which I'm expecting is you have to just Google. Nothing beyond this. Clear on this? Sounds interesting? Yeah. So tomorrow, if you understand this process, tomorrow, if you are working on a new programming language that has came in through, it doesn't matter, right? You have to basically know the steps, and for steps, if it is you can Google it. If you don't find the steps, you can sit with your developer and get to know all of this. What is the difference between thin and thick, right? Thin server means you don't need to install anything. So for example, I want to go to qualitythought.in website. Do I need to install anything apart from my Chrome browser or any browser for that matter? So on the client side, I am not expecting my user of my application to install anything. That is called as thin client. Okay, if you have a browser, that is enough. Thick client means if you want to use my application, you have to install a software. For example, basically if you want to do antivirus scans, you have to install an antivirus software, right? You cannot do without that. Okay, so that is a thick client. So whenever to run an application, if you need to install something on your system, that is called as thick client. Mobile app is also a thick client. It is not thick server. Thin and thick client, not servers. Okay, right. Any compilers other than Maven in Java? By the way, Maven is not a compiler. When did I say that Maven is a compiler? Okay. So what are many ways of building Java application? Java compilation always happens with very simple steps, right? Okay. Clear on this? So will you all do this activity for me? Just Google out, have the steps ready. Example of thick client, Yeah, it could be a webinar which you have installed. So for example, from mobile, some people connect to go to a webinar, right? So you will install some software, then that is basically what a webinar is. But if you want to do a Google Hangout call, you might not require a Hangout client, right? You can do it from your browser itself. That could be an example of thin client. Okay, guys. So am I clear with the agenda today? So today you have two activities to be done. Find me steps for deploying a Java application into JBoss server and a Python application into Apache server. Okay. So tomorrow these approach, this searching is important. I'm not even asking you to search for answers, right? Try to get aware of this stuff. Okay, we don't need to know anything, or we don't need to remember everything. Okay, so if you know how to search or how to find, and if you are good at this generic stuff, you can basically try to automate all of this to become effective at DevOps. Okay, good, man. So I think I'll stop it at that. I thought I'll go with the thick client applications also, but it doesn't matter, right? So try to find me those steps, and tomorrow I'll take some language based examples. We will do something directly tomorrow, right? Yeah. Okay, man. So I'll stop it at that.
Thanks for watching. For more videos, subscribe our channel and click on bell icon.